I believe we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another session from Investing with a Difference. So, today our focus is on EOS RAM. It has been a subject of discussion on most of the EOS forums, and the community has been focused on it for some time now. So, let us talk about what's going on. So, before that, a quick introduction. We have a Facebook page which you can join to join the conversation within our community. We have been doing a lot of like discussions around what more than EOS. It's a generic cryptocurrency channel where we discuss many trading ideas, what's happening in the news, as well as how you can benefit from the movement in cryptocurrency world. Then we do have a couple of links for referral links, like BitMEX is a futures trading place where you can buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, EOS futures, and you can actually do a leverage trading. We believe it is one of the fastest growing exchange and doing very well. We have done a lot of trades there as a group, as an investor group, if you are aware of us. And we this link can help you get some discounts on the commission and the Binance referral for altcoin trading. So let's get back to our topic of interest today. So EOS RAM, what's going on? And there's a very good article that Dan Larimer has posted in this Medium post yesterday. And this has been actually one of the reasons why prices came down. So we will try to look at some of these ideas of what exactly Dan Larimer is talking about. So basically, first of all, he's explaining what is RAM and what is needed, like why RAM is required. So this is basically the memory which contains the information on the blockchain, and it is one of the most important piece because you're talking about what is really the need for RAM, and every app will need to have some RAM to operate because you will be keeping some information about blockchain, about your own application. But now let's talk about what is really happening here. So first of all, you may know, like when we started covering RAM, it was very low. It was like less than 20 EOS per megabyte, and it went all the way up to 900 EOS per megabyte, which was like more than 50 times the returns if you had invested here. While we suggested that it is very difficult to speculate, and this is what we were worried about, that when this whole crash happens, sorry, I think we missed out the wrong duration. So basically, what happened is when the crash happened, we saw this coming down from all the way from 926, I think, is the peak for per megabyte, to and it touched a low of 183. So while people made 50x return, people who joined late in this speculation game, they lost almost, I would say, 80% of their value. And this is where I think the risk was, which we were recommending not to touch unless you understand all the risks. So what happened actually was, this is where the community got worried because the prices were too high, and to launch a D app, it would have become almost impossible for somebody to fund their development, because if you look at most of the airdrops, they had stopped because of lack of RAM. It was too expensive to do airdrops, while we were always talking about how EOS can provide free airdrops. This RAM cost had increased the price to a very big value. So it's that is one of the reasons I think the community was focusing on it. And so let's talk about what is really happening here now. So this is another chart. I think marketstack.io, they also track the prices. They show a little short-term chart. So going back to this tool, this is a fee explorer, and if you log in with the scatter, actually you can directly buy RAM or sell RAM directly on this tool. We have previously shown you how to buy and sell RAM on using the EOS toolkit. So this is one more place where you can do that. So now let's talk about why it fell, why it crashed from the levels we saw on July 3rd to all the way down, and now it's stabilizing. So in short summary, let me tell you, nothing much has changed. People do not really, the thing is, the speculators did not really understand what was going on. So the people who drove this price up, at that point, they did not have any clue. Most of them were either manipulators, like people who really understood it, and they knew that there will be a FOMO and a lot of people will jump in at some point. So they were buying in at lower prices, and a lot of people just came out and tried to buy in. But at some point, this crash happened because people started creating rumors around, oh, there's a change happening, there's a problem with Bancor. So you need to really understand what happened. So this article from Dan Larimer is one of the best way to explain it. Even though it's very technical in nature, some of the things like he talks about Bancor relay. Now, this is not really the cause. So a lot of people are talking about this being the reason why market is crashing. So he has suggested that. So one of the key things which is highlighted here is there was a configuration issue. That is, the parameter was for the Bancor relay weights was set as 0.05 rather than 50%, and this was creating a little more volatility in the price. While that is true that this could have slowed down the rise, or it would have created uh, a more stable market, but it would, based on the kind of EOS tokens which were pumped into this whole process, it would not have mattered much in terms of the whole curve. So we still believe that this is not a big issue. This is not going to change anything. This will not stop the prices to be driven up. It's just a matter of adjusting what is happening from the old values to the new values, and this will just, as soon as this change takes effect, it will, it may change the prices, but overall it will not really change the whole principles on which RAM trading is happening. So I think going back to the next thing, which is the real change, which I think Dan is suggesting, is you can bring down the costs by increasing the RAM. So I think this is another thing which was discussed. Again, this is not happening overnight. This is a change which will be implemented in the code on how to add RAM. And one of the things which they are suggesting is to use a virtual memory, where you have some SSD or some hard disk space which you can use to really swap the RAM space out. So this can be a very scalable model. And this is what they are discussing, and this will be added as one of the tools in the new EOS.io release, which will come from block.one. So overall, I would say nothing much has changed. It's just that speculators were running the show. People were piling up. They got scared with all the news, with the community inputs on how they can come and change this, like, space where the price is going too high. And the funniest thing is, yesterday there are a lot of things which means I was just reading on my free time. We were talking about Dan Larimer was on many Telegram channels. So I discussed some items with him. So like some of the things which he was suggesting is how to increase, and I completely agree with him on the one aspect that it's very difficult to keep reducing the price by adding more RAM, because people will automatically adjust to the new price. So it has to be gradual increase. So that's what he's recommending, and I think this is a good solution for long term. But in short term, nothing will change if people realize it. I think this may still go up again, and already at this price, which is 0.32 EOS per kilobyte, it's pretty expensive to start a new DApp, or especially airdrops, because you are actually creating a token and keeping all the token information on the blockchain. You need around 10 megabyte to 20 megabyte, that order of RAM. And that means you're talking about almost $3,200 minimum now, I think up to $10,000, which is not cheap for a small project. But I think this was at a very high price yesterday. So these are some of the ideas. I think RAM trading is still feasible, but we always recommended this is highly speculative in nature. I think people who entered early, who made these gains here at early stage. So we wanted you to know about it. We were not recommending either buying or selling or not doing it. It's up to your risks. But I think people who got in early at this stage, they made a lot of money. There was nobody knew how high it will go, and now this looks like it may not happen again, but there will definitely be some speculators who will be running the show. So this is what we expect in so let's say if you look at now in last 1 hour what is happening, so you see that prices are still going up and down. In last one day, if you see, it has seen a low of 183 EOS per megabyte to 360, 377. So it's almost 100% gains you could have made even with all these changes, and with the lack of volatility, as you can say now, uh, which is happening here. All right, guys. So this is what I wanted to cover on the RAM. I think there are a lot of other things happening. We will talk a little bit about that, but what I can tell you is that RAM is going to be expensive in EOS. And now, one thing which you should understand is what is the benefit of this. So the biggest thing which my takeaway is, this is the RAM fee account. So this is where the 1% fee, which all these traders are paying every time they buy and sell. So there is 0.5% fee for buying and 0.5% fee for selling. With all this trading which happened, EOS RAM fee account has now got almost a million EOS. That is almost $10 million worth of EOS. Now this is going to be used for protecting against inflation. So this can be used for paying the block producers. And currently, this is much more than what block producers are getting paid. In last few days, the RAM fee is actually generating more funds than what is the pay for block producers. So what does that mean? That means that whole inflationary system which was built in for paying to block producers, it is now EOS has become deflationary, and you can actually burn these tokens to really add value to EOS as an ecosystem to increase the price of EOS token. So this is, I think, one thing which people are not understanding. While a lot of people have criticized EOS trading, the RAM trading itself, it is not bad because it's ultimately a marketplace. You don't want the early movers to block all the RAM. Let's say if the RAM was not trading and it was right now, initially it was super cheap. For example, we were still at very, very low prices. What stops from me to write a really crappy D app, which consumes a lot of RAM on the system, and because I bought it cheap, I can afford it, and I can really utilize a lot of RAM on the system, and we really make EOS to be, like, not a good blockchain anymore. So it's a good thing to have some entry level barrier, even though I don't agree with the current prices, it's too high. But giving this RAM away too cheap is also not a great thing. And what the system was designed was to make it a market model where the market decides the price and you should be able to buy or sell the RAM. So that is how it has been operating. And in the process, they tried to create an advantage for EOS token holders by collecting this fee. And this is, in long run, I think this is going to be very, very beneficial for all EOS token holders. And we should not miss out on this point, which not many people are talking about this. So this is one thing which everybody should be aware of about RAM. I think if you have not traded RAM, I think yes, it was a missed opportunity, but again, it was always risky if you get caught at the wrong place. As you can see, that people have lost a lot of money if they were on this downward hill last couple of days. Then, in general, one more thing which Dan Larimer highlighted is. You need to understand that currently this only 4.4 million EOS, that is around $40 million worth of EOS, is holding the market cap of very high, like $270 million. So as and when this price continues to come down, you need to understand the only money which these people who are holding RAM are going to get is $40 million. In a hypothetical case, if all the speculators sell, so they will not, and they liquidate, this price can come down very, really, really low. That's a risk everybody should understand. And this article was intended to scare away people. I would not like this, even though it was a very factual article, which is not, this is not trying to really create something which is not true. But the way it was written, I think, was to highlight the fact that it is not, uh, the price you are paying is very risky, and by driving the price up, this is not a great idea for everybody. So I think this we have been saying for a very, very long time already. So let us see if you have any questions about RAM before I move on to another topic I wanted to talk about. So we have mostly people are commenting. So if you have any questions, please add to your chat and we can try to take your questions. People are talking about whether this is going to be whether there will be a big change in the RAM quantity. I don't think it's going to happen. By the way, if you are not aware, there is a actual change. This is the GitHub. This is the source code where open source development is happening, and EOS IO source code is changed. And yesterday, this change was introduced for increasing the RAM at a constant rate, and this can be used by block producers to change the RAM. And this is right now not an approved state; it is still an open item. It is not even available in the code, and so if people are not understanding what's happening, this will take some time because it will be reviewed, it has to be merged, then they have to release it after testing, and then block producers have to upgrade to the latest version of EOS. All that may take a few days or maybe longer, and that is why it's not really true that the price has, like some people are commenting whether it's already increased the RAM size, or what is the decision. So the decision is not taken. This is only a tool provided to change the RAM size. And once this is available, then block producers have to make a decision of how to implement this change. So there's a question coming from Chris. Anybody had issues sending EOS from Binance to their public address or EOS account name? I think we have not done it, but yeah, I think some people have faced issues because Binance had in between they had stopped withdrawals again. We are not sure what is the current status, but you have to use your EOS account name, and I think in the comment section or a memo section to receive. That's how it works. And again, as we said, I have not personally used it, so I will not be able to comment it. What else? So I think one more thing is more and more exchanges are now on mainnet, which is pretty good, and I think most of you should try and get these tokens out of the exchanges, because again, let me go and show you what is happening um, on the voting side. So EOS votes and the proxy. This is actually a very good tool created by Aloha EOS, and they are tracking all the proxy accounts. And if you see the top 13 accounts, which contain millions and millions of EOS, is owned by Bitfinex. And this is not a great situation where exchanges own so many tokens and they're able to vote on behalf of, even though Bitfinex is being very transparent, there are other exchanges who are not even transparent. They're not even taking proxy. So in this case, Bitfinex is allowing their users to assign them as proxy. And many people are doing it because they don't understand it, and they're allowing their exchange to do it. Now, some other exchanges like ZB and all others which are actually in the top 21 block producers, they are not even asking their token holders, and we are seeing that they are just voting for themselves. So either way, I think we need to own our own tokens, and if you own your own tokens, if you don't know whom to vote for, please use these proxy accounts. We ourselves in Investing with a Difference, we have already offered you a way to assign proxy to us. Our account is Investing WAD, that is Investing with a Difference. Now, how to do it is, I think what you need to do is you can do it through the toolkit. So let me go and so we have already shown you this toolkit for GenReos, which is another block producer, and you can do it with this proxy in the manage voting, and you can go to set proxy. So unfortunately, for these tools, you still need to use a scatter account. You need to attach your scatter account, and then only you can you have to log in with scatter basically to be able to do it. If you do that, it's very simple. uh, you just put your account name and you put which account you want to put the proxy to, and you can create proxy. So it's very simple once you have already become familiar with scatter. I think scatter is becoming more and more important in the EOS world because a lot of things are happening. Like every scatter is a very good tool because it allows you to interact with any EOS app without sending your key information. So it is basically securing your private keys. The only challenge is you should be comfortable with securely setting up scatter. And what we would recommend is, irrespective of whether you are using scatter for your main wallet, create another wallet on scatter and send a few EOS just for other purposes, not for voting, because for voting you need all your tokens to be used. Then only the weight of the vote matters. But for other purposes other than voting, I would say, irrespective of whether you want to vote or not, everybody should have a scatter account. And if you're not comfortable putting your main wallet on scatter, create a new account for using it for other purposes. So that's one of the recommendation we have. So the one question, okay, let's look at the questions coming in now. So people are asking about, is Simple EOS wallet safe? I think we have not seen anybody reporting any issues with Simple EOS wallet. But I think we believe Greymass is safer than Simple EOS. Definitely Simple EOS has many more functions as compared to Greymass. And Greymass is committed to add more functions very shortly. So we would say that we are very comfortable with the team. We have personally interacted with them, and we feel that they are keeping safety first. Simple EOS has tried to keep it safe, but I think earlier we had some concerns about some potential issues, not specifically with the app, with the Simple EOS wallet app itself, but we had issues with the potential hackers who can. There were more ways you could hack a Simple EOS app. Uh, Greymass was much more secure, right, from our initial analysis. But I think we have not heard many people complaining about Simple EOS as well. What else, guys? So I see a question saying, why do we need to buy and sell RAM anyway? So Sukhpreet, I think the answer is, RAM is a resource which is needed for creating an account because you are actually reserving a real estate. So RAM is almost like a real estate on the blockchain, because that is the information which stores on the blockchain forever, and which is always continuously used and validated. Now, if you create a new account, you need to have that information in every block, because how many tokens you have, the status of your tokens and everything is stored in the blockchain, and that's takes some space, and that is why you need to buy RAM. What else, guys? So I think we need to basically focus on what is going to happen in future. I think the RAM will continuously increase. More and more space will be available. I don't think it will be a big concern. It's more about the short-term speculation which we are worried about. So somebody's asking, where do you see RAM in the next 3 days? I would say that it's stabilized a lot. So let's look at last one day. It is not moving as much. Of course, it's, as I said, it's still a big range. It is moving within like zero point 0.2 to 0.4, let's call it, as a range. And it all depends upon the news around what is happening. Right now, it is kind of setting up into another pattern of moving slowly upwards, because people are realizing that there was a lot of negative news in last couple of days. Everybody was speculating on what changes will come into effect. Even now, these are proposals. So if you go back and read this Dan Larimer's article and what he's suggesting, this is a proposal. This is not agreed upon yet. So nobody knows how the market will react. There are a lot of speculators here. So if you look at this Fee Explorer, they tell you each and every buy and sell decisions. Some people are actually buying huge quantities of RAM. And see, if you look at this tells you what is the sentiment like. You see a lot of buy here, and sometimes these are mostly some big accounts, mostly speculators who are running the show. So it's very difficult to fundamentally make a guess on where it will head. It will be headed late now in next 3 days. But definitely, if some concrete steps are announced, it can have a very, very high chance of going down, because this was just based on the discussion proposals. You can see that it came down from all the way from 914 or 920 EOS per megabyte to almost below 200. So that is like a big drop of 75 to 80%. So this was only because the speculators got scared and they wanted to cash out. Now, how this will pan out is anybody's guess. But I would say that be very careful if you're doing it. If you plan to do some applications or you want to develop on EOS, then everybody should buy slowly some RAM because you will need it. If you want to create accounts, it's not useful because there is no way you can transfer RAM to another account. You have to buy it for yourself. But if you buy it, it's more like a hedge. If you buy it now, you can sell the same amount of RAM whenever you create a new account. So if you want to buy RAM for creating more and more accounts, you can do that now. And sell it and buy. There will be a sell and buy transaction you need to do. Unfortunately, there is no way they allow you to transfer RAM to another account. What are the other question? Which is the best, gray mass or scatter? So on the wallets, I would say Greymass is a wallet which is kind of an application, and it allows cold wallet. When I say cold wallet, you mean you can really enter your keys, and when you're not connected. Scatter is also, both are safe. Scatter is for different purpose. Scatter is a browser-based tool where you are actually. So this is the Scatter extension. You can log in with Scatter on any website. This is the benefit of Scatter, and this is really needed for you to interact with blockchain. Greymass is more like a wallet where you just store the tokens and you're not interacting much other than voting. So they're slowly adding the tools. Hopefully, they will be able to add more tools as we go along. So let's look at the release status of Greymass. So originally, it was designed as a voting tool. And they are increasing their functionality of the wallet. It's pretty safe, but it is limited. Scatter allows you to use all these other sites like EOS Toolkit, which is online. You can access it through browser, and there are almost all kind of operations you can do on this toolkit. And this is the benefit of Scatter, I would say. So what else? Can't we just leave an hour tokens on the mainnet? So I don't know if you wrote it correctly. So if your question is whether you can leave your tokens on mainnet, I think you need to understand that all your tokens are on mainnet always. There is no, tokens don't move. When you access a wallet, when you use a wallet, you are just using an interface. You are keeping your keys in a particular place, not really your tokens are not moving basically. You don't receive airdrops for EOS, you change to RAM. That's right. So if you have, but by the way, first of all, you need to understand that all the airdrops which are happening right now, they are using the Genesis snapshot. That is when the mainnet started, how many tokens you held. It has nothing to do with how many you have right now. But in future, if you have certain EOS tokens and you have converted them into RAM, and if they take a new snapshot, those airdrops will not be able to see you as a token holder. So it will check your latest balance, and that snapshot will be used to give you airdrops. So but I think as of now, the current airdrops, most of them are happening on this Genesis snapshot. So you don't have to worry about it if you're buying RAM. It doesn't matter whether how many tokens are right now not with you, because you were always there on the Genesis snapshot. Sorry. So if I missed your question, guys, please enter your questions again in the chat. We are just looking at it on what are the latest comments. Which wallet you guys using to store EOS now that you move from Binance? So I think we have already covered it. Please go back and look at this video again. We have talked about some wallets. So we love Greymass. If you are only keeping your tokens and not using it, simple EOS is also a much better features. A lot of people use it, and the Scatter is, I think, one of the best for interacting with blockchain from many different sites. So let me show you some of the other things. Right, means if you are this is Monster EOS is another app created by the community. So this is actually very similar to what the crypto, like CryptoKitties or some other things which had. So we just, for as an example, we created these two monsters. You can feed them, you can put them to sleep. Again, all these are just ideas, just to test they are just trying to build concepts on EOS. This is running on blockchain, this is running on EOS. Now if you have scatter, you can actually do it, you can take part in these kind of applications, because they are scatter allows you to log in with your EOS account without sending your keys. Similarly, there is another place like EOS Bets, I think EOS Sports Bets. So this is a sports betting app which is allowing you to bet on games, and you can win tokens. So let us wait for it to load. So this again, so these are the kind of apps which are coming up on EOS, which we are very excited about, which allows you to really see the performance of EOS. So while all this mess around governance, about voting, about we had a lot of issues. It's only 1 month since mainnet is launched. Actually, it's not even one month since it is active, and there's a lot of noise on EOS. People are getting negative about EOS. What we want to highlight is, look at these apps, and you can only experience them with scatter today. That's why we are recommending to everybody to set up an account with scatter. And it may not be your original wallet you create. You do not have to use all your tokens to do that. And if you're worried about it, create a scatter account, interact with the blockchain. Okay, so this is not really working somehow. um, so I think let us talk about uh, like these apps. So what I'm trying to highlight is, check out the sports bets, check out this Monster EOS, and you will realize this is what EOS is designed for. And this is what, let's go back to the performance of the network. Those are the things people should talk about. We already have more than 4 million blocks produced in less than a month. Uh, it's If you look at the speed of these blocks being produced, the confirmations, when you really send the tokens, it happens instantaneously. Those are the things people have to focus on, for why EOS will be successful, and not all the mess around RAM trading, not all the mess around the governance of block producers, and all the changes which people have been talking about. All right, so what are the other question? Does scatter require private keys? Guys, if you want to access your tokens, uh, it will require private keys. So there is no question about it, but you can create a new wallet within Scatter and use that. But for making any withdrawals, you always need private keys, but be very careful. If you don't understand the basics, take help from somebody who is knowledgeable. Don't enter your private keys randomly unless you have 100% security of how you are entering it and whether you understand it or not. Do you need to have at least 100 EOS to get airdrops? Not necessarily. I think this is depends on the project. Some projects were giving airdrops only for people who had more than 100. This was more of a concern for when they were giving airdrops on Ethereum, that is ERC20 wallets, and because it cost gas, and they didn't want to give it to everybody who has very small number of tokens. But on EOS chain, I think, for example, Everipedia, which is going to be the biggest airdrop and the most important one, they are giving it to everybody. They are not putting any limit. And there's no need for it if you have enough RAM, if you can do it. And over time, I think all the EOS projects will be providing airdrops to everybody. But some people can, if they don't have enough resources, they may airdrop to more like the 100 plus, or they can define any criteria for airdrops. Um, what else, guys? So we have any news on BitShares 3.0? I think you're referring to BitShare 2.0, because Dan Larimer talked about that. So basically, let me explain you. So I think there are two things which Block.1 is working on. They have confirmed, and Dan Larimer himself has confirmed that they're working on an exchange, which is based on Bancor algorithm, just like the EOS RAM trading. They are working on an exchange for tokens, so you can list your tokens, you can trade your tokens using EOS blockchain as a backbone, and this is going to be a decentralized exchange. So Dan Larimer has confirmed that Block.1 is working on it. So that is don't know what it will be called, but indirectly it is being called as BitShares 2.0. Of course, it will not be called BitShares because BitShares is a different project, and Dan Larimer is no longer on BitShares, and Block.one will name it something else. Same thing, people talk about Steemit 2.0 that is being developed by Block.one. That is just a way of putting it. It will be another social network, which Dan Larimer has confirmed, and I'm sure it will not be called Steemit. It will be something else. But yeah, I think you got the point that both of these big ideas which Dan Larimer had originally worked on. Of course, he wants to continue building those in EOS and show the world that EOS can run hundreds of such applications and it is just a platform, while BitShares and Steemit were individual application based blockchains. What else? I think I have another 5 minutes. I can take a couple more questions. What's your view on Steemit long time? I would say Steemit is still a pretty popular platform. It is growing as we go, but I think I see some challenges in how limited it is. It is still a simple blogging site. I think if they have to compete with something like Facebook or to get as a social media platform, I would say it's more like a, if you remember in early days of internet, there used to be a blogging sites which are now no longer that popular. People have moved on to posting on Twitter and Facebook and whatnot. So I think Steemit is very, very limited in the way it is today. Unless they reinvent themselves, they cannot really compete with the main stream social media. They are still very, very niche area where people who are really interested in crypto, they go to Steemit. And But I see that it's going to continue to be like, it may exist for a long time, but I'm not very positive on it becoming anything like a huge social media platform. Will there be own RAM market for each side chains? Yes. So as the side chains come along, by the way, side chains is a very, very long term project. Because okay, in crypto world, when I say long term, it is means 6 months to 1 year. As you can all imagine, it's a very, like, people are focused for a very limited time in cryptos. So when I say very, very long term, that means it may take at least 1 year for side chains to be possible on EOS. But when it happens, the RAM market will be different because each side chain will have its own RAM, and that will not be directly connected to the RAM on main chain. That's how the scalability will work in long run on EOS. What else? People are okay. So last question: why is RAM prohibitive for airdrops if it is reusable? It is reusable, but remember, if you create a token and if you're creating the token holder information, you cannot reuse that RAM because you need to keep all the token information for every token holder on the blockchain. So some part of RAM you can reuse, I understand, and that's what some of the airdrops are doing. They are buying lesser RAM because it's costly, and they are doing multiple weeks of airdrop. Now we are becoming almost as good as Ethereum in the time it takes to airdrop. But again, the free transactions are still possible, so that's the advantage. But I would say airdrops are becoming slower because of low RAM. But projects who bought RAM early enough, they made a very quick airdrop. So technically, it is possible if you have money, if you are going to buy RAM anyway in future, and if the projects are buying RAM. But that is what is happening. I don't think you can avoid owning RAM if you are issuing a token because you need to maintain the whole token holder information and the status of that on the blockchain. It cannot be off chain. It doesn't make sense to do that off chain. So I would say the RAM will be needed by all the dApps who are issuing their own tokens. Okay, so let's take a couple more questions quickly. When will be a hard wallet available? We don't know. I think Dan Larimer has confirmed they have already worked on a wallet which works on Mac OS, and also they are working on iOS. wallets. So these are mostly Apple products because they are considered more secure. Um, those are going to be kind of hard wallets because the keys will be embedded in your hardware. But there is some discussion. I think Cypherglass had put a bounty, and I think EOS New York was working on support for Ledger Nano S. We haven't heard back on what is the status of that. I think there is some prototypes available, but it will take a long time before they really test it and release it. Uh, how should a novice consider EOS in the long term? I think you should consider EOS as a kind of a blockchain which is usable, which is technically one of the best. Yes, there are challenges we have seen recently in the governance and some other issues. But I think overall, we are fairly comfortable with the technical strengths of EOS, and it will go a long way. Let me call it that. Let's not get into details. We have covered enough. If you go to our old videos, we have shown a lot of reasons why EOS is one of the best projects. EOS looks like a centralized. What's your thought? Okay, so again, it's a long topic. I don't want to talk about it right now because I may not be able to cover everything. I think it's very, very immature to say that EOS is centralized because then in that case, you're saying all the democracies are centralized because if you are just looking at very, very shallow way of analyzing a blockchain project, then you're talking about 21 block producers producing the blocks. So let me just give you 2 points why that is not a good understanding of the projects, because you first of all you need to understand that block producers are selected by EOS token holders in a democratic fashion. You can vote in and out. Second thing is there are a lot of backup block producers, and there are hundreds of them, which can take over if one of the block producers is shut down. And many other things. I think these are just a couple of points I have highlighted. If you do a little more research, you will know why it's just a FUD that EOS is centralized. Of course, they have not allowed a mining way or anybody else to set up a node and those kind of things, because that is anyway that has not resulted in anything good. If you look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, the proof of work, they are very wasteful. They use a lot of energy, and if you want to start a mining node, you will not gain anything as an individual person now. After like in the amount of processing power you need, it's only available with some big miners and with mining pools. So in that sense, they are equally decentralized. They are equally centralized, and there are issues everywhere. So it's, I think EOS, if you look into the philosophy of how it is built, it is not a centralized project, but it is subjective. So let's not debate it here. I would say it's more about what level of centralization and how do you define decentralization. That defines how you value or how you label a project centralized or decentralized. All right, guys. So I think I'm running out of time. So thanks for joining. I see that there are a lot of more questions. So what I will do is this week, I have some more time tomorrow. Maybe we will do another live stream tomorrow, and we can take more questions. Today, I wanted to focus on RAM. So let's have a quick look before we go on what is a RAM price looking like. So it is still not cheap. It has come down from the crazy valuations we were seeing a couple of days back around, but it is now kind of moving in a range between 200 to 400 EOS per megabyte. And I would say that this is not cheap, but it is at least stabilizing. And let us watch out for which of these proposals, which Dan Larimer has talked about, will be accepted. I think some of these changes are more or less already going through. He's right now enabling the tools for how to increase RAM. It is going to happen anyway. But I think what we are looking at is some very, very practical methods which are going to come into play very soon. And this will be good for long term. So there is no concern anymore about this speculation is kind of getting under control. And in long run, I think we have a good thing. And finally, if some of you did not hear my comment about how RAM is helping EOS token holders, I would end with this comment that all the fee which is collected and how this is actually generating more funds for the system contract than what block producers are right now earning. That means you have extra tokens being created for burning or for any other block producer pay, that is a very good opportunity for making a value for EOS token holders and making EOS a deflationary token rather than inflationary economy. So that is, I think, one of the really good thing happening because of RAM trading. So that is what I'm happy about, and it adds a lot of long-term value for us. So that's all from me. Thanks again for joining, and hope to catch you next time. And if you have not subscribed, please subscribe to our channel, and join our Facebook group. We have some interesting discussions happening there as well. So bye for now, and talk to you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.